Hi, I'm Natalie Jill, fat loss expert turned lifestyle and high performance coach. When odds are stacked against us, how do we shift and create everything from nothing? How do we level up when we aren't feeling it yet or have had a big setback? And how do we adjust quickly when life throws us major curveballs? On this podcast, I do what I do best, taking complicated information that is relevant to us now and breaking it down simply with actionable steps you can implement to level up your own life. I also regularly interview some of the most inspiring and courageous men and women on the planet who at their worst learned how to achieve success greater than they ever dreamed possible, leveling up, creating everything from nothing. If you are new here, I encourage you to go back and listen from episode 1 for the full transformative experience. Music saved her life. In 2018, Maxx Nies picked up a pen and began writing songs to heal from the sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse that she had suffered as a child. Her first single, No Good at Love, from her album titled Daddy Issues, is about how she never felt clean enough to love herself or others. You see, Maxx used to take many showers in a day trying to wash off the feeling of feeling dirty, all which was brought on by the guilt and shame she carried. At age 20 now, Maxx, through writing that title track, she shares that she was able to heal quickly and even forgive her abusers. As she began to write more and more songs, she was able to navigate through the pain, hurt, and all the disorders that she experienced. Now eating disorder and medication-free, she has turned her pain into quite a purpose. She's a singer, songwriter, survivor, and thriver with a heart to help others heal through music. Join in today and learn exactly how Maxx Nies has leveled up, creating everything from nothing. I'm really excited for this interview today because I'm talking to Maxx Nies, and if you guys saw her, you can't necessarily see her on video right now because I'm recording for audio, but she looks like spitting image of my daughter. And so I'm recording this also for my own selfish reasons because I have so many questions because she's a singer. She just got her first song out and my daughter's a singer too. So I get instant connection here. I wanted to know so much more. But what makes Maxx so unique is the crazy beginning of her life, the crazy stuff that she went through as a child and how she's channeled that into her music and how she's busted through a lot of things that could have gone a very different direction. So Maxx, thanks so much for being here today and being open to talking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk to you.
So Maxx, 20 years old, you just got your first song out in a big way. But take us back, like who were you as a kid? What was going on in your life?
So as a kid, my mom and dad were always separated. They were never married. And spending time at my mom's house was always fun and happy and exciting. I have great memories there. And then my dad's house has always been a very dark, scary experience for me and very lonely and isolating. And so I didn't see my dad the first 2 years of my life. He never really wanted to be a father. Once I turned, I think I was 2, he agreed to start seeing me and was like, okay, I guess I'll give this dad thing a try. And it just didn't really work out. Like he didn't want to be doing it. I don't know. It was.
Did you sense that as a kid? Like, did you know as a kid? Because I think young, you're just thinking like mom, dad. Like, could you sense he didn't really want to be involved?
So no, I didn't think about it until like age 9, honestly. And that's when everything started like happening for me. Like I lived from age 2 to 9, just like going through my life, just thinking everything was normal. And like, I had nothing to compare it to, like I was just like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. My dad treats me this way. My mom treats me this way. This is my experience here. This is my experience here, whatever. And then when I turned 9 years old, I started like getting all of these like memories and flashbacks, and I would start talking about like what was going on at my dad's house, and people were like, oh, well, that's not really supposed to happen. And at the same time, I started developing like really bad anxiety and OCD and depression, and my body and mind just kind of started shutting down. And there was this period where I got to like such a rock bottom emotionally that like I just stopped doing normal human things. And I stopped like showering. I refused to go to school. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to talk to anyone. All of my friends, I just like dropped. Like I just gave up on myself.
So I have so many questions right now. So like for one, like what did your mom used to say about your dad? And did she know that what was happening over there?
So my dad despised my mom. Like I think a big part of it was he was like, when she got pregnant, he was like, no, I'm not having a kid. And she was like, no, I am having a kid. This is my body. This is what I'm doing. And I want this child. And he just automatically was just like angry about that. So he hated her for whatever his reasons were and refused to have any communication with her unless it was, I think, either text or email at one point. So, and I didn't know to say anything. So my mom wasn't getting any information. She wasn't even allowed to like go inside of his house. Like when she would drop me off, he was like, you have to drop her off at the end of the driveway.
Wow. So how did it even get to a place where your dad could see you? Because I'm assuming if he wasn't in your life the first 2 years, your mom had primary custody. How did it even get to a place that he was seeing you?
Well, I don't know what the custody was like when I was like a baby. But my mom wanted him to be a part of my life. She like begged him to be, and he just refused. Like he was not interested. He didn't want to. And I think his parents were pushing him to be a father. So finally he just gave in.
Got it. So your mom was doing it from the right place of intention. Like she's like, well, I want her to have a father figure. So let's push this.
Yeah. And like she didn't really, like I said, they were never married and they weren't even like very serious in their relationship before they had me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like she knew him like that.
Totally. I get that. Yeah. So, okay. So what was going on over at your dad's house?
So what was going on was it was like he ignored me a lot of the time. Like he didn't give me attention, but when he did give me attention, it was very toxic, unhealthy, and abusive. He was not very big on like physical abuse. It wasn't like he was just like beating me up 24/7, but he would do like weird things like squeeze my wrists to the point where they would have like marks on them, or the back of my neck. He would like very things that people couldn't see on the outside, like in public. But like then at the same time, he would never like show me any kind of affection. Like it was like weird. Like he wouldn't hug me or hold me or comfort me when I was upset. He was very weird about being physical with me in like a normal fatherly way. So he also would lock me in closets and rooms. My room at his house, actually, if I shut the door on the inside, I was stuck in the room. It like automatically locked. So I wasn't able to get out of my room if I closed the door. He was the one who had to let me out. And at the same time, there was sexual abuse going on by his friend that he allowed. So
how old were you, Max, when this was happening?
So from what I can remember, the sexual abuse started at 6 years old. But my dad's abuse of just being verbally and emotionally and sometimes physically abusive, that was going on my whole life.
So your dad had friend or friends, and he would like he would let them do their thing. And then so it's like, it's not that he was doing it, but he was not stopping it. He was letting them.
Yes. It was like kind of like a deal they had going on. And
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So did you tell your mom any of this, or did you not know it was something to tell her?
I didn't. At first, it was something I didn't know to tell her. And then it was like, and this is a common thing for people who have traumatic experiences where you don't have a full memory. It's like, you know that something happened to you, but it's not clear. And I didn't have like all of my memories of what I do now until I was like 14. And I get it. When I had my first memory of my sexual abuse come up, and it was like pretty clear, and I knew that it had happened to me, and I really just didn't want to admit it or think about it. And I remember how it came up was I started asking my mom questions about the man who I had the memory with. And because he was like one of my dad's best friends. And he was at my dad's house a lot of the time when he wasn't doing those things.
So was this person, and I want to get a little bit more, and I'm sorry, I know this is like a painful thing to kind of go into, but I think this is helpful for some people that don't recognize it's happening to their kids or that they haven't even coped with it. The person that was abusing you sexually, was he like a monster to you, or was he like befriending you? So you thought, because I think there's this, I've just heard from people I've interviewed, there's this like weird thing where they feel almost guilty, like they like the person because they're being nice to them and they're getting attention.
It's interesting that you asked that, because that's how I felt about my dad. Like I always and he's my dad. So I like it. That's kind of a natural thing, but I always just had this, it was like I was angry and sad. Mm-hmm. I had those feelings towards him, but then at the same time, it was like, I always had this other feeling of like, it's okay because I love him. And I would call him when me and my mom would get in fights and then be disappointed because he was never there for me. Like I just had this expectation of him.
Yeah.
Every time he like, I put myself or put him in a place to expect some love from him or something positive from him, it was always a disappointment. So I had that feeling of like that loving your abuser thing with my dad, but with the friend growing up, I hated him. And he was always like rude to me and teased me a lot and was just inappropriate with me. And
so from day one, he was that. And so you would notice this man's being uncomfortable with you and rude, but your dad's like sort of looking the other way and you didn't want to rock the boat with your dad.
And anytime I ever asked my dad anything, he would say, usually this was like his line, I'm the adult, you're the kid, don't ask questions, just do what I do and do what I say. And I was just like, all right, I won't say anything.
Wow. So gosh, I feel so much in what you're sharing that like every little girl wants their dad to love them. Like and we do tend to look other ways at treatments because we want that. So is it age 14 when your full memory started coming out? Is this when you first started sharing with your mom what was happening?
So when I was 9 and I started going through all of my depression and anxiety and just shutting down, my mom put me in therapy, and the therapist, when I started talking about what was going on, the therapist was like, she has to stop seeing him. Like, this is not okay. And then my mom was made aware of what was going on, and she immediately like took me out of the state. Like
I can imagine your mom was just devastated. I can't even, as a parent, imagine.
In shock too. Like she had no idea. So,
and then the guilt too. Like even though it's not her fault, like that guilt, like, oh, I wanted her to have a relationship with this person.
Exactly. Like my mom has gone through her own whole thing.
Totally.
Self too. But yeah, so then from like 10 to 14, I was just dealing with the fact that my dad wasn't even fighting for me to want to stay. You know, it was like, I was just so sad that he didn't want me, and like I wanted to be around him, but then at the same time, like being around him made me have panic attacks. It was just a really confusing time for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and then I started going through, I had an eating disorder and my anxiety was just awful. Like I was just not doing well. And I was actually put into a rehab center because I was so malnourished, and they worked on like getting me back to health physically.
So talk to me a little bit more about the eating disorder, Max, because a lot of people assume people with eating disorders is that they just want to be skinny. And that's typically not what it is. I find that it's a control thing. It's something you can control. Can you talk to me about your experience with that?
This makes my body like burn up, because people really do think that. A lot of people think that eating disorders are just about the way you look and this and that. It is literally like, at least from my experience, I didn't even want to be skinny. My problem was one day I was so depressed and so anxious that I just stopped eating. And I wasn't eating for like a good amount of time. Mm-hmm. And naturally my body, I lost weight. And when I would feel okay enough to eat, and I did eat, I got this feeling in my stomach like there were like bugs crawling in me. Like the feeling of having anything in my body or my stomach being full was so uncomfortable for me that I just didn't eat. And then my body, I think, got addicted to the feeling of just being empty. And then when I actually put food in me, I wasn't able to like process it properly.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just like a snowball effect of it.
But it's almost like, and I don't know that there's any proof behind this or anything, but what comes up for me is when you look at kids or teens that like cut themselves or starve themselves, it's almost like you just want to feel something. So you're doing this to have to feel.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to my grandma about this morning, because she was asking me like, why do kids think it's their fault all the time, that like their parents get divorced or that dad abandons them. And I'm like, well, think about it this way. Like you're a little kid and you're on the playground and you're being bullied and someone calls you names and is being mean to you. You're like, oh, that person doesn't like me. So that's like how you feel when you're like a little kid and your dad is being mean to you. Like on the playground, oh, they don't like me. So I feel like I used my eating disorder and any other abusive things that I did to myself as a distraction from facing what was going on with my dad.
Get it.
I'm starving myself. And if I'm punching myself in the face and I'm feeling all this other pain that I'm creating for myself, I don't have to think about the pain that I have to deal with that went on at my dad's house. So it is a distraction. And it also, control is a huge thing too, because being at my dad's house, all of my control was stripped away from me. He controlled me. And I mean, as a kid, you're not supposed to have all the control. You're not supposed to make all the decisions, but it was in such an unhealthy, dramatic way.
Yeah.
Where like I couldn't even eat food when I wanted to. And the food that I was able to eat was rotten and stale. And like, it was so controlling that when I stopped seeing my dad, I was like, oh my God, I need to control literally everything because I don't know how to live a peaceful life.
So when you were going back and forth to the houses, would you get like that anxiety before you were going to your dad's house? And then but your mom never picked up on that, or you didn't share that, or you hid it from her?
So what would happen was so I first started sleeping at my dad's house. And then one day I came home and I just said to my mom, told me the story. I didn't even really remember it at first. And now I do. But she said one day I came home from his house and I was like, it was a weekend that I slept there. And I said, I'm never sleeping at daddy's house ever again. And she said, why not? And I said, I'm just not. And she said I was like 7 years old. And she never got the answer why or anything. And I didn't sleep there. And then one day it was Father's Day. And I asked my dad what he wanted. I think I was around like 8 years old. And he was like, I just want you to sleep at my house again. Like, it's weird that you don't sleep at my house. Everyone else has kids that share custody and they sleep over at their dad's house. And I was like, I can't do it. And he said, why? And I said, I have such bad anxiety about sleeping out. And like, I couldn't sleep at anyone's house. And now I know why, because there were certain things going on that were scary to me. But so like 3 days before I would go to my dad's house, I would start getting anxious. And it was like people would be like, you're being so dramatic. Like, just live in the present moment. Just like, why are you thinking about 3 days ahead? And I would get so frustrated because I couldn't relax. And then they would like, on the day that I was supposed to go over to his house, whoever was picking me up to take me there or dropping me off, I would have like panic attacks, and to the point where I would start hyperventilating and couldn't even go sometimes because my anxiety and panic was so awful.
Wow. And I would imagine your mom probably thought, like a lot of moms would think, like, it's just separation anxiety. Like, she wants to be around me but I'm doing the right thing. She needs to have her dad in her life. I don't even know your mom, but I'm feeling that would be the whole conversation going on.
That's exactly what it was. And it was very much easy to believe that because my mom and I, it's just the two of us. Like, I'm an only child and we've been like best friends.
Yeah.
Like, we have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
So it was easy for people to just think like, oh, she just wants to stay with her mom.
Wow. Okay. I want to shift a little bit into the singing and we'll come back to the story, but because I'm thinking of just like my daughter as a singer, she's been singing since she was 2 years old. I mean, just constant singing. Were you doing that like at both houses, or were you like, I'm noticing like she'll be at my house or her dad's house and she's always singing, always singing. Were you doing that? And what was your mom saying about it versus what your dad was saying about it?
So at my mom's house, I was singing, I was putting performances on in the living room. I was dancing, I was doing choreography. Like I was a full on like artist.
Yeah.
And I was like a baby, you know, like
yeah.
I started out when I was like probably 6 years old. I started like doing little performances and
totally like my daughter does. I get it. I love it.
A little keyboard. I had like my song book. I got for every birthday, I got music presents. Like everything was like acknowledged at my mom's house. And my dad, it was the same every single day. I would arrive at his house. I would put on the TV, and I didn't really even know how to control the channels. So Channel 7 was always on, so I would sit there and watch Judge Judy for like if Judy was on, she became my new best friend. And then I would just go back home. Like my dad never put in any effort to
so he didn't know you had this talent or care, or he didn't. Okay.
No, not at all.
Got it. So how did singing become, was that an outlet for you initially, or did that evolve into an outlet?
Yeah. So that was, I think at first it was just like a distraction that I craved and that I loved. Like I just really enjoyed doing it. And then when I started writing songs when I was probably, I think 7 or 8 years old. And my first song was about my great grandma who had just passed away. And she was like the first person that had ever died. And like it was in my life, like it was the first time I was experiencing something like that. And I didn't really understand it too much, but I did realize like how sad everyone was. And I even felt sad. And I knew that it was just like a sad moment going on. So I wrote a song about it. And a lot of people were like, oh, wow, that's actually pretty good. And like people were impressed by it. And that made me want to like do it more. And then I realized that I was feeling good after I wrote the songs, and it was like a release for me, and it was a distraction, and it was like a good distraction. So I did that a lot. And then I got into singing lessons at 8 years old, and that just motivated me even more. And I started performing, and it just snowballed into like this amazing addiction that I have.
So it's funny. My daughter always says this, and you'll probably understand this more than a lot of people listening. She always says that she only feels that she can write when she's in her feels. And I was like, what does that mean, in your feels? She's like if something's going on, something she's sad about, or that's when she says she comes up with lyrics. Did you find that for yourself too?
Yes, I totally understand what she means by that. But I also, it's weird. I feel like it's either one extreme or the other. Like I can't write in a middle area. Like I can write when I'm in a really good place because I feel like my mind is clear and able to like process things very clearly and properly. And then when I'm really sad or in my feels, like how she says, because that's when things are so like raw and emotional, and you can really like tap into all that emotion. But I don't know, when I'm just like, okay, I'm just like, I have no motivation. I need to be like on one extreme or the other.
Yes. Okay. So now how did you go from being a kid that was coping and navigating what you'd been through with your dad and depression and eating disorder and all of these things and enjoying singing to like actually getting a song released, like that's out there, that's real. How did that happen?
So I actually like, in my early teenage years, I started losing like motivation to do pretty much anything. I was riding horses for a really long time consistently, and that became like my new like savior and distraction and coping mechanism. And then one day I just woke up and was like, I don't think I want to do this horseback riding thing anymore. I was like, I had just graduated high school, so I was taking a year off and like trying to figure out where I wanted to go to college and what I wanted to do and like what my next chapter was going to be. And I was like, I think I want to get back into singing and writing and music. And I started doing that. I started taking lessons again, and my teacher at the time introduced me to this producer, and I brought him one of my songs, and he was like, you have an amazing talent. Let's start working together. So we did, and we wrote our first song. And after hearing that and like seeing that come to life, I was like, oh my God, this is possible. Like, I can do this. And then songs just started pouring out of me. But most of the songs were about like just light things, very poppy, very like about like breakups and crushes, and like it was mostly surrounding like boys and just like what I was going through life at the time. And then my uncle, who's a life coach, he's a spiritual life coach, and I started working with him because I was just, I don't know, I was just all over the place and not feeling great in my own mind and body. And he helped me tremendously. I like say every single day or every time I talk about him, he saved my life, because he really, really did. He started inspiring me, and not even inspiring me, he started forcing me to write about what I had gone through with my dad and my feelings and emotions and everything that I was dealing with. And I was like, no one wants to hear about that stuff. Like, that's depressing. That's like, it's not going to be on the radio. Like, how do you make a fun song that people want to dance to, people want to listen to, people want to hear on the radio about depression and anxiety and suicide and abuse? Like, I'm not writing about that stuff. And he was like, just wait and see. Like, you're going to love it. And I was like, all right, you're crazy, whatever that. And then one day I went into the studio and I had awful anxiety, like to the point where I was shaking every single day. Like, and I didn't even know why. Like, it wasn't like there was some big thing. It was like my body was just like trying to shake the anxiety out or something. I don't know. And I went in and I was like, I have to write this song about anxiety. Like, it's taking over me. I have to get it out of me. And I left the studio like more peaceful than I've ever been in my entire life. It was like I just released it, and I still to this day have not had that crazy shaking anxiety. I mean, I get nervous here and there, but it's never.
Maybe it was like your first time truly sharing your truth. Like, you were taking your truth, because you had made all these reasons why maybe it's not as bad as I think, or maybe, but you were sharing your actual truth. And I think that maybe makes sense why you felt that in your body at such a visceral level.
Yeah. And then after that song, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I just released all that anxiety. And now that anxiety that I hated and despised every day, I kind of love it now because it this song. And now when I think of anxiety, I think of my song, and I love this song.
That's incredible.
Yeah. This very dark, negative thing, super positive. And
I love that.
Wait, I can do that anytime I want to. So now I've just been like crossing off the emotions and the mental struggles that I've had and writing songs about them. Anxiety, depression, suicide, loneliness, eating disorders, sexual abuse, all of it. I like to write about it now.
You've totally turned your pain into purpose.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Now tell me, what is your relationship with your dad now? Do you not talk to him at all? Is he know that you have a song out? Like, are things with him?
So I stopped seeing my dad at like 9 years old. And I think up until I'd say like 13, I tried to call him and I tried to talk to him about like having a relationship with him. I tried fixing things, and every time I picked up the phone to talk to him, he would just basically end up saying, "You're a liar. None of this is true. You're crazy. Your mom brainwashed you. She kidnapped you." Like all this stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, like, wait, what are you?
No, he's basically gaslighting you, trying to make you think that it's not true.
Exactly. But like at the same time, feeding me all these lies. And I was like, if I keep talking to this man, I will literally go crazy.
Wow.
Not just like go crazy, like the saying I'm going to go crazy. Like I will go crazy, and I felt myself getting to that point. So I finally just stopped communicating with him. And then him and his family started like harassing me on Facebook, Instagram. That like they would accounts. They would I had to change my phone number. It was bad. So I blocked them on everything and didn't talk to any of them for years. And after I started working with my uncle, it had been a year of working with him. And I just got to this place of being very content with myself and loving myself and not being scared of what had happened to me or my dad or my abuser or any of that. And I'm just in such a good place that I got to this place of wanting to see my dad and talk to him, and not just that, but tell him that I love him and I forgive him for what had happened. So every year, I'm from New Jersey and my family lives there. And every year we go there for my grandma's birthday in the summer. So this last August, I decided to, while we were there, go to his house without him knowing. I just went there and I knocked on his door and I ended up saying, "Hi, I love you and I forgive you. And I know what you did and I know what your friend did. And I want to say that I'm forgiving both of you. And I'm so sorry for whatever you went through to want to do that to someone. But I've forgiven you and I'm letting it all go." And
how amazing of you to have done that. What a gift.
And I always say I did that for me, but then at the same time, I saw how it helped him. There was emotion in his face for the first time.
Wow.
He wanted to hug me for the first time.
Did he?
Yes. Yeah. It was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, because hurt people, and it doesn't excuse the behavior. But you're right, because that holding that anger and hate and blame is going to keep you hostage.
Exactly.
It doesn't make him right. It doesn't make anybody right for what they've done. But staying in that place of victim, it doesn't give us any power to move forward. So I think it's incredible what you did and that you recognize that, and what a gift to him. Yeah. And I hope that he shifts and changes because of that.
Yeah. And he has, he just had another kid, and I got to meet him that day, and all I can think about was, how is this kid's life going to turn out?
Wow.
And I just hope every single day that anything that I do and anything that I put out there can have a positive effect on how this child's life is going to turn out, because I have no control.
So from that moment, that day, that when you had this, which must have been so scary for you to go there, I can only imagine what that felt like. And then that hug, have you had communication since that with your dad?
Well, it wasn't that it was it was definitely nerve-wracking because I hadn't seen him in so long, but it was scary because I realized that he's just this sad, broken person, after I saw him, I wanted to hold him. I wanted to
you felt compassion.
Okay. I wanted to comfort him. And when I left, I just felt so powerful and sorry.
Yeah.
But he actually, before I left his house that day, was like, "Can I please have your phone number? I want to talk to you. I want to have a relationship with you." And I just said to him, I am open to that. I don't know when I'll be ready for it, but because I just got over everything that and I'm in such a good place right now. And I don't think that having a relationship with him is not my priority anymore.
Got it. And kudos to you that you're even talking about this, because the amount of people you'll help with your story is so powerful and incredible. And I know how hard that must have felt, because it feels almost like you're betraying a parent. I know, even though you're not, that's how heavy that parent relationship is. So I think it's so magnificent that you have taken this and you're giving, not only making incredible music with it, but you're helping so many others that haven't spoken out or don't know that there's something that they can speak out.
Yeah. And that's 99% of the reason I want to be doing this. It's an easy thing, and it's definitely scary. And I've had so many thoughts, and still after doing, cause I've been doing a few podcasts since my release. And I've been thinking oh, what are my friends going to think of me? what's this person going to think of me? Like now everyone knows this big secret I've been holding on to. And I just keep reminding myself, like, this is you. This is who you are. Like, this happened to you. This is like nothing you should be.
It's your truth. It's your story. It's your journey.
You're like telling people, if you're not telling people that this happened to you, you're kind of lying about yourself. Like, this
and imagine how many kids you're actually giving the space to speak up now, because there's somebody listening right now that has been avoiding confronting. There's somebody listening right now who's sensing it in their child and isn't, like, you're giving permission to open up a conversation. And I think that's amazing.
And I've already had people reach out to me and say, like, wow, you've really inspired me and this has helped me so much. And it's the best feeling in the world. It really is, to be able to connect and, like, not even just have them send me that message of you've helped me, but to be able to continue to help them and connect with them and be like, oh, you're going through that? Well, this helped me. Maybe this will help you. Or if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here for you. Like, I don't care if you're in Australia. I don't care where you are. Like, I will talk to you over Instagram. I'll talk to you on Facebook, like anywhere. Like, I'm open to talking to anyone. That's what I want to do. This is what I want to use my story for.
And if anyone's listening that is on the other side of it, that's the abuser, what do you want them to know?
I want them to get proper help. I want them to take their anger and sadness, not take it out on people. I want them to really look at themselves and ask, why do I feel the need to be doing this? Because it's not something stupid like, I just don't like my kid, or I don't like my girlfriend, or she lied to me the other night. Abuse, there's no reason for abuse. There's no reason. So really look at yourself.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that gaslighting and telling people that they're making it up doesn't help things. But I think the first step in peace and love and coming back together is owning it and just admitting and saying, I screwed up.
Yep. And it's a very hard thing to do. But once you do that, I mean, I've even had to do those things and admit to things that I am not proud of and forgive myself for certain things. Like, I even just personally with myself, like, I abused my own body for years because of what I had been through. And that was just my way of coping. But I built this, like, it was like I was fighting with myself. I was in a war with myself for so long. And I had to, like, forgive myself and tell myself I'm sorry for doing that to you know?
So Max, where can people follow more about you and where can they get your song? Because I mean, I know so many people are going to want to check this out now because so talented and so wise for being so young. What's the name of your song? Where can they find it?
The name of my song is No Good at Love. Okay. It's out on all music platforms. My Instagram is Maxx, Maxx .Nies, Nies. I have a Facebook page. I think that's just Maxx. All of my music platforms are Maxx, Maxx. I just put out my music video last Sunday, and that's on YouTube and also on my Instagram, Instagram TV page.
We'll put all the links down below. Everyone check it out, support. I love journeys like this. I love that you've turned your pain into your purpose. And I know you've got a bright future ahead of you. And I'm honored that you let me interview you about all of this. Thank you so much, Maxx.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me your time and having me on here.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen in as my guest today. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with friends and on social media. I don't advertise this show, so I rely on word of mouth and reviews to get it out in the world. The biggest thank you that you can give me is leaving me a review, and a nice one, I hope, by the way. This is how others find these episodes. If you do leave me a review, be sure to message me at support@nataliejillfitness.com with a screenshot of your review, because I would love to send you a free digital download of my DSR journal as a thank you. And please don't forget to connect with me on social media at Natalie Jill Fit on Instagram and Facebook.